All right, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Inside Pages on Metro Television. Now, Inside Pages digs deeper into the pages of the most topical issue in the course of the week by engaging the right guest and asking them the relevant questions on your behalf. My name is Moro. Awudu. I'm your host. And as usual, promises to be a very exciting morning. Now, what's on the menu this morning? The convener and the frontliner for the Fix the Country movement, that's Oliver Barker-Vormawor, has been arrested. Yesterday, the police, or the Ghana Police Service, issued a statement to that effect, and this has to do with a Facebook post that Oliver made a few days ago that if the E-Levy was passed, he will personally stage a coup. The police are not excited about that statement, and so they've picked him up yesterday at the Kotoka International Airport. Some of the Fix the Country movement members actually went on social media complaining bitterly about the whereabouts of Oliver. We have all the angles to the story for you today that's on Inside Pages. And also on Inside Pages this morning, we have a special guest. Felix Kwakye Ofosu is a special aide to the former President John Dramani Mahama and also the former Deputy Communications Minister. He will be joining us for an exclusive chat on matters that border on three key areas. The thematic area, we're talking about the E-Levy, we're talking about free speech, and then we're generally going to talk about governance issues. That promises to be very exciting today on Inside Pages. We'll take a break. When we come back, we will delve into the issues. Stay tuned in. All right, welcome back. This is Inside Pages on Metro Television. My name is Moro Awudu. Let's now do the reporters block, and then after the reporters block, we'll delve into the main issues for the day.
News of the dismissal of Yao Kwakye as managing director of the Ghana Airport Company Limited came at a time he was leading members of Parliament's Select Committee on Roads and Transport on an investigative mission over the recent shutdown of the facility. When journalists informed him of the termination of his appointment, Yao Kwakye, who was visibly shocked, said he was unaware the president had directed the company's board to terminate his appointment through the transport minister.
My appointment has not been terminated, so if you have a fresh letter, please give it to me. I don't know about it, so when I get exactly. When I get to that bridge, I'll cross it.
This is the man. He has not cited any such letter. He is not aware. So, and this is not the medium through which, even if there's such a letter, he'll be communicated with. Let's leave that matter for now.
Metro News later caught up with Deputy Minister of Transport, Alassane Tampoli, who stressed that the president owes no one any explanation for dismissing Yao Kwakye.
Can you confirm that the CEO has indeed been dismissed?
What does the letter say? It's addressed to the board chairman. Yes, so that is how it's supposed to be done. Because it's a company. So it's regulated under the Companies Act. So the letter is written to the board chairman, and the board chairman will now convene a board meeting at which all the necessary steps will be undertaken pursuant to the Companies Act. So it's confirmed.
But why is he being dismissed?
Have you cited a copy of his appointment letter?
No, please.
The appointment letter doesn't say why he was appointed. I don't know why it should be stated why he has been relieved of his position. Yes, so the president has the prerogative to appoint, and he has the prerogative to relieve of the people of their positions. When the president is appointing, he doesn't give reasons. And by the same parity of reason, the president doesn't give reasons when he's relieving people of their positions. So this is something that has been going on in this country, not today. So nothing has changed.
Some say he has paid the ultimate price with his job for ensuring that the right thing is done.
These are matters in the realms of conjecture. I'm not sure that is stated in the letter.
Although it is unclear what actually led to the dismissal of the MD, this decision comes days after Kwakye issued a notice to Magdan Aviation to halt the inauguration of his private jet terminal over safety and security breaches. But there has also been bad blood between the MD and some workers of the company. In February 2021, some disgruntled workers laid down their tools, accusing Kwakye of mismanagement. In an interview, Deputy General Secretary of the Public Services Workers Union, John Ni Donu Sampa, said their past differences with the MD has nothing to do with his dismissal.
The media, you have also followed some few issues between the workers and also the management, especially the management director. We have tried to bury our differences, and we are working in the interest of the state. And so if now the president thinks that it is time for him to take a decision, we will meet as workers, and our official position in the matter will come, and then everybody will get to know about it.
In what, in his view, is an alternative as of the abandoned toll booths across the country, the Minister for Roads and Highways, Kwesi Amwakwata, in an interview, told journalists his outfit is considering converting the toll booths into an ultra-modern washroom for road users.
We even want to refurbish all those toll booth structures to provide proper and decent washrooms, for instance.
This got many tongues wagging.
You want to carry some good message. You have a very nice plan. But the way you put it up, no, it's not good. It's not good.
I think they are not serious, because you can't sack someone then you say you are using the place to a washroom, then right now you said you will not use it again. So I think they are not serious.
Hours after this statement went viral with accompanying backlash, Kwesi Amwakwata said on the floor of Parliament that his earlier submission was taken out of context.
So if among other things we use this period to improve the sanitary situation at this toll booths, we would even allow drivers to stop in case passengers want to use that facility, among other things. So it wasn't a statement that I made, it wasn't a report, it was an interview, but that portion was paid, and you do not have access, and you are not privy to the entire
Let's return to
interview.
the report.
But the big question remains, it's been 3 months since the toll booths were abandoned. What becomes of them now? This place would have been very busy by now, with traders dotted around this area doing their usual businesses, whilst the toll booth collectors attend to drivers to collect their tolls from them. But however, the narrative has changed after the announcement of the closure of all toll booths dotted around the country by the roads minister. It's about 9:48 p.m. here at the Tema Plaza toll booth, and this is the situation here. But let's get closer to see how the place is gradually deteriorating. This is how the inside of the building now looks. Dust. Definitely the computer is no more here, and it is filled with dust, as you can see. So much dust. Cables all around, and the lights and fan nowhere to be found in this very toll booth. Definitely it is the same with the other toll booths here. But then let's get closer to Bismarck, who is the security here, and find out from him how he has been manning the place. How have you been keeping the place safe?
It's not easy. It's not easy because the junkers have been fighting me to live here for them to have chance to go in and destroy the things inside of it. And even with that, they have stolen many things here. And I've been fighting, seriously. Fighting. Oh, the other time there was a military soldier, a military man who came to help me here. He was the one. But now, because of that incident, now the pressure is now down.
Talk about they stealing some items. What are some of the items that they've
The
got
iron,
away with?
those irons.
The irons?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the air condition. They have stolen the air condition too. And at the same time, you saw that there was no fan in there.
Yes.
They have removed the fan. If it was not you, I have not been going in there, so I don't know. Right now that I have just said that.
You realize that the fan is
the fan is not there.
Mostly E-Levy. E-Levy, no, so
we prefer the toll booth system than the E-Levy because the E-Levy is a cheat. We will all be cheated, and so we do not want it. The government just wants us to suffer.
This is the Ashaiman Toll Booth Plaza, and the place is totally dark. Unlike the Tema Toll Booth Plaza, which had a security man there, here there is no one here manning the place. We understand a lot of people have been attacked around this area. Prior to our arrival, we saw someone in that very building sleeping. When he got to see our cameras, he took to the hills. This is a looming danger for motorists who plow this stretch. Reporting for Metro News, Elvis Ando, Tema and Ashaiman Toll Booth Plaza.
All right, so welcome back. That was the reporter's block. This is Inside Pages. Now, as I did indicate in the beginning, or at the beginning of this program, that the social media activist and the convener of the Fix the Country movement, that's Oliver Baka-Vomawo, has been arrested by the Ghana Police Service. Indeed, the Ghana Police Service has issued a statement to confirm it, and the statement reads, it says, Mr. Oliver Mause Baka-Vomawo has been arrested by the Tema Regional Police Command following a post he allegedly made on social media platform to the effect that he would stage a coup himself if the E-Levy bill is passed by Parliament. And the statement continues. It says he will be arraigned before court on Monday, 14th February 2022. We continue to call on the good people of Ghana to avoid making pronouncements that may lead to a breach of the peace of the country, as any such acts contravenes the laws of the country. Right, so that's the police statement on Oliver Baka-Vomawo. That's how the name is pronounced. Now, on your screens you see the ABC News paper that sort of did a story, and in that story they talked about the fact that Ghanaians are calling for the arrest of coup d'etat monger. That's Oliver Baka-Vomawo. Now, after this particular publication, Oliver himself came out to issue a press statement, which I'll be reading to you shortly. But let me take you back just a little while. Now, Oliver, after issuing that statement about, well, where he says that, look, if the E-Levy is passed, and perhaps I may have to read exactly what Oliver said before we get on the phone and speak to a lawyer about what has happened. Now, this is what Oliver said. I intend to get the exact quote from him. Now, so here we go. All right, so what he says was that after I'm trying to look for that particular post, I can't find it, but he said, if this cake, after the sharing of this cake, remember there was this issue about the majority leader's 65th birthday, and some mysterious somebody gifted the majority leader a cake, and that cake, they had written E-Levy, and that became a big, very topical issue on social media. Now, that was actually what originated the post by Oliver, where he says that if after the sharing of this cake, the E-Levy is passed in Parliament, he will personally stage a coup. So that's what he said. Now, after that, The ABC newspaper came up with a publication, and after that publication, Oliver then went on, came back on social media and wrote another statement. But after that statement, Oliver then comes out to say that, now let me say this as clear as I can be. If any single person thinks that I do not know the modus operandi of an illegitimate democracy is to arrest and torture activists, you must not have understood anything I have said or written so far. And it says our sense of urgency isn't based on naivety. We know what and who we're dealing with. We know who and what we're dealing with when we ask for more for ourselves and our families. And he continues to say, so I say this as sincerely as I can be, and with all the honesty I can muster. I do not give a rat's ass what this government does in stating what this government does. Now, in starting to speak up, I started to shed the fear of death every passing day. Cowards die many times before their deaths. And he says, the valiant never taste of death but once. Now he says, of all the wonders that I yet have heard, it seems to me most strange that men should fear, seeing that death, a necessary end, will come when it will come. And he continues, now, if my movements are of any interest to you for your arrest, then know this. On the 16th of this month, I will be in Ghana. I will be attending the invitation of the ambassador of Denmark to speak on a panel at the Danish embassy. Then the next day, on the 17th, I will be giving a speech to the deputy ambassadors of all the European embassies in Ghana. I will speak on state violence and the deterioration of the rule of law in Ghana. And he says, I'll break the culture of silence again. Arrest me when I come. Ideas never die. The quest for freedom is eternal. We have sown an idea and it will grow as ideas do. Arrest me. Oh, so okay. So it says, now to those whose sense of justice and fairness has been awakened by my voice, hear this. If I'm ever arrested by the regime security or their affiliates, I beg this of you, do not trend any hashtags. Calling for them to release me, to do that will be legitimizing their violence and their false justice system. Do not demand that I be released. I promise that I will not even demand that I demand a writ of habeas corpus be filed for me. Do something else instead. And it says, call for the end of the false republic, call for the end of a political system that has impoverished and made your lives meaningless. Call for the end of the old Ghana, because the new Ghana to be built, the old one must first give away. So that's what Oliver posted on his Facebook handle. Yes, that's what he said. And in fact, he had initially said he'd be in town on the 16th, so he was in town yesterday. He was picked up. I think he arrived around 4 something, picked up around 5:20. He then sent a text to his family and tells his family that I've been picked up by some unknown persons. So what we do not know is whether when the police, first of all, who arrested him? Were the national security operatives? Were the BNI? Were the police? We don't know. We don't know. But they arrested him. They've taken him somewhere until the police issued a statement this morning. Now we know. The police confirms that they were the ones who arrested him and that they arrested him in connection with what he said in that Facebook post. So that's what we know at the moment. For some reason, they fixed the country conveners. None of them is sort of prepared to speak on the matter. But we're still working the lines to get through to one of them to speak to us, to tell us what they know so far about Oliver's arrest and detention. So that's what it is. Now, but beyond that, some events have also happened in the course of the week. So Ohineba Benny of Power FM has been arrested for also making some statements that the state deemed to be libelous. And so he was processed, sent to court, and he's been jailed. He's going to be languishing in jail for 14 days. Apart from Ohineba Benny, there is also another friend and colleague. I'm talking about Mr. Bobiansa, Kwabena Bobiansa of Accra FM. He also made certain comments on radio. And because of that, he's also been invited by the police. In fact, the police went there and arrested him. Okay, arrested him and took him to the Nima police station and then went to Cantonment police station at some point. I'm told he was sent to the striking force, Accra Central, and then some of his friends and loved ones went there to solidarize with him. Yesterday, he was granted bail, and some of the top hierarchy of the NDC were there to solidarize with him, and so on and so forth. Now, it raises the question as to whether this issue about free speech is either the media is taking it too far, or maybe, just maybe, the system, I'm talking about the state or the government, is criminalizing free speech. And some say somehow we are reintroducing criminal libel through the back door. That's what some people are saying, that perhaps we're introducing criminal libel through the back door. And some have raised the questions about whether and why this would be the case in a country being governed or being led by the man who was at the forefront as Attorney General repealing the criminal libel laws. And some have asked that question. Perhaps it is legitimate, but whether or not the president himself knows what is happening is another matter. But whatever it is, some believe that perhaps the journalists are being a bit, the state is being a bit high-handed in the way they're dealing with media persons. Now, but then there's a fundamental question. The fundamental question here has to do with whether or not when I replicate a false publication, so somebody sends me a false publication, or somebody sends me fake news or false news, as some persons have described it, when I also decide to post it or to promote it or to publicize it, how does that constitute legally perhaps an abuse of free speech, or how does that constitute libelous, and what laws would I have been broken or would I have been breaking by deciding to replicate that false or that fake statement? That issue has also come up. And indeed, there's been a write-up. And I want to thank Elvis Daku of the Finder newspaper. Yesterday, he sent me a beautiful write-up, a beautiful article where the article seeks to look at, the fact that even though, yes, the replication or the publication of fake news is bad enough, that in itself should not constitute a situation where somebody is given a custodial sentence for, perpetrating or for promoting fake news. Because that in itself is against our international, in fact, the international human rights have condemned it, and they're saying that, look, even sometimes the publication, and I find that quite ironic, that the promotion of fake news in itself, it's not as lethal or as dangerous as sometimes the state would have us believe. And so when somebody does something or publishes a fake news, it is entirely up to persons who have been affected to take legal remedies, civil remedies, to correct that, instead of giving the person some custodial sentence. Perhaps I'll read that statement. I'll read that article. It's a very beautiful article. Elvis Daku of the Finder newspaper. I want to thank you very much for that. So we're working the lines to get through to Justice Abdullahi, who's a private legal practitioner, to help us, navigate and unpack this issue as well. But in case you just joined us, this is Inside Pages on Metro Television. My name is Moro Awudu. If you have any questions or any comments that you want to make as far as this, the topics we're looking at is concerned, please feel free to send us a WhatsApp message. Let me just read to you what the WhatsApp line is, so that you can send us your comments, which we'll be more than happy to read. So the line is 05002 5621, 050025621. And also remember that Felix will be joining us shortly. Felix Kwakye is an aide to the former President John Dramani Mahama, and also the Deputy Communications Minister. He's our special guest on Inside Pages. He will be joining us shortly on this. So once we get through to Justice Abdullahi, we will begin our conversation. We also, as I said, working the lines to get through to a member of the Fix the Country movement to tell us what they also know about the arrest of Oliver Mausi Voma Vowa Bakavo. I hope I got the pronunciation of the name correctly. It's such a mouthful, isn't it? Yeah, so that's it. So again, let me read to you what the police said about the arrest of Oliver. Now, Oliver Mausi Bakavomawo. Yes, Mr. Oliver. So, man arrested for threatening coup. That's what is contained in the police statement. It says, man arrested for threatening a coup. And it says, Mr. Oliver Mausi Bakavomawo has been arrested by the Tema Regional Police Command following a post he allegedly made on social media platform to the effect that he will stage a coup himself if the E-Levy bill is passed by Parliament. Now, it says that the post contained a clear statement of intent with a possible will to execute a coup in his declaration of intent to subvert the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. It says he'll be arraigned before court on Monday, 14th February 2022. We continue to call on the good people of Ghana to avoid making pronouncements that may lead to a breach of the peace of the country, as any such act contravene the laws of the country. We'll take a break. When we come back, the conversation will continue. All right, so welcome back. This is Inside Pages on Metro Television. And as I did indicate at the very early stages of the show, that one of the frontliners for the Fix the Country movement, Oliver Baka-Vomawo, has been arrested by the police. Now, Oliver, Oliver, he was picked up minutes after he touched down at the Kotoka International Airport. Now, the police service yesterday issued a statement to the effect that Oliver's arrest is in relation to a Facebook post he made to the effect that he will stage a coup should the E-Levy be passed. Now, we'll be speaking to Justice Abdullahi, who's joined us via Zoom. But before Justice Abdullahi joins, first of all, Justice Abdullahi, I want to say a very good morning to you, and thanks for joining us. Hello, Justice Abdullahi, if you can hear me, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so, Lawyer Justice Abdullahi, can you hear me, sir? Hello? Okay, so whilst Justice Abdullahi works on his connection so that we can start the conversation, this is exactly what Oliver posted on his Facebook page. Now, this is what he said. If this E-Levy passes after this cake BS, now, I do not want to read it because it's not air-friendly, but it says after this BS. I'm sure some of you have understand what the BS is. Now, if this E-Levy passes after this cake BS, and that's in reference to the majority leader, Osache Mensahbosu's 61st birthday, and the cake that was gifted to him by an unknown person, as he himself has said. He said he's a businessman. And he says, useless army. He adds, useless army. Baka-Vomawo said in one of his posts. And then in another post, he says, okay, let's try again. Let's try again. If this E-Levy still passes after the cake BS, then may God help us to resist oppressors' rule with all our will and might forevermore. Justice Abdullahi, good morning.
Yes. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you now. Thank God.
You.
I can hear you now, sir. It's good to have you on Inside Pages, sir.
It's always a pleasure serving God and country.
Okay, so this is the post Oliver Vomawo posted. This is what Oliver Baka-Vomawo posted on his Facebook wall. And he says, if this E-Levy passes after this cake BS, now, Justice Abdullah, you know what I'm referring to as BS. I will do the coup myself, useless army. And then he comes back and posts another one where he says, okay, let's try again. If this E-Levy still passes after the cake BS, then may God help us to resist oppressors' rule with all our will and might forevermore. Help us appreciate legally what wrong or crime Oliver may have committed with this post.
Well, thank you. Moro, these are difficult circumstances. These are very difficult comments. I would not in any way condone this comment because it's such a reckless comment. It's not in good taste. To incite the army because in your estimation they are not staging a coup, they are not removing the government, subverting the constitution, and so because of that you call them useless army. Is obviously not the kind of comment that will be tolerated in any jurisdiction. And to emphasize on that and threaten a coup in a fragile democracy like ours is even worse, particularly when it's coming from a youth leader who has quite a number of following. It's such a dangerous comment. Let's remember Jerry Rawlings was a completely nobody junior rank with no leadership role of any sort. And he was still able to stage a coup, unsuccessful as it was, but succeeded in becoming the leader of this republic after subsequent coups that he probably had very little role to play in. And so, and our current circumstances, with the plethora of coups around us and the agitations for better economy, better welfare systems for our people, any of these comments could potentially explode in our faces, and it's not something that any one would be happy with. Nobody is desirous of having military men taking over the administration of this country. However bad democratic leaders may be, I think we are still better off with them than having the army or indeed any other person in uniform taking over. And so comments of this nature is automatically taken in the light of this kind of understanding. And so you can appreciate it when the security agencies took the decision they took to effect an arrest, possibly investigate and prosecute if they wish to do. So long as this is not being seen as witch hunting or as part of the agenda to cut down on dissent and by the government, I think it's fair in this particular light. I think it's just the right thing that the police have done. So indeed, I think Oliver himself envisaged his arrest. I don't know whether because he felt that it was orchestrated, or because he knew. And of course, being a lawyer, he knew that his comments were dangerous. Not quite, very dangerous comments. And so he envisaged the arrest, and that is indeed what has happened. And I do not think this one is far-fetched, unlike some of the other arrests of media personnel in our jurisdiction and indeed other civil society members who have been arrested. Those ones, I think those ones can be discussed and dealt with separately from this one.
Okay, so if you look at the post he made, so the first post was quite clear. He says, and I read that, he said, if the E-Levy passes after the cake BS, I'll do a coup. Then he comes back with another post, and in that post he says, okay, let's try again. If the E-Levy passes after this cake BS, then may God help us to resist oppressors' rule. Does that make any difference? I mean, you can tell that the second post was more civil and was milder. Does that change the complexion of the legal regime that we're dealing with them as far as this matter is concerned?
Depending on what you said, I think that would rather be an affirmation of his earlier post that he was going to stage a coup. Particularly the tone and the choice of words used. It can rather be seen more of a real intent. If you took the earlier one, the first one, in isolation, which was complete in its own, you could probably say that maybe it was, you can, spin it around, probably it was quite out of frustration or from how the system is treating all of us. And possibly, maybe he probably went overboard, and so may not necessarily intend what he meant. But coming back second time, and almost affirming his earlier position, it's more dangerous that way. And I don't think you can make this kind of comment, even in any democratic dispensation. The mature democracies like the U.S. and Canada, where he's coming from. Even in those countries, I'm sure if you make these kind of comments, of course you'll be investigated and your background will be checked. They would like to know whether or not you are capable of carrying out this kind of attack before they will even take you serious. But that's because they have more stable and indeed resilient systems of institutions in governing and protecting their democratic governance. Unlike same comments being made possibly in terrorist mindset in that country, even if you do not have the capacity to carry it out. They would also take you on, even without any capacity. So in our case, our Achilles heel, would be this kind of thing. Ours, if you make any terrorist comment, we probably may also not take you serious because we know that we are not entirely susceptible to some of these things, even though we do not have quality structure to take care of us. But we know how weak we are in carrying out such things. However, when it comes to coup and matters surrounding the overthrow of a constitutionally elected government, we are easily susceptible to some of these things, and we can easily, we are very, very weak in the light of such matters, and it can easily be carried out. So if it is coming from a person from the background of Oliver, it is natural that maybe the security agencies will take it serious. And like I said earlier, he may not have what it takes, but he does have the support base if you want to carry it, judge him from that angle.
Okay, so basically, Oliver is in for trouble. Based on the analysis you've given us.
For this particular one, I think he didn't get it right.
I see. I wanted us to have a conversation about and if you can just summarize it for us. We've seen some arrests that's been effected. We've seen that of Captain Smart. We've seen that of Oheniba Benny of Power FM, Captain Smart of Onua FM. We've seen that of Kwabena Bobi Ansa of Accra FM. Now, it's these arrests are beginning to raise, again, it's brought back to the front burner the issue about, suppression of free speech. I don't know whether you'll be able to situate what has happened to these persons in this proper context. Is it a case of we're gradually criminalizing free speech, which is a reality, as some persons are suggesting, or it is that journalists are perhaps going a little overboard in the way we go about our jobs? What do you make of all that has happened as far as these arrests that have been effected in the last 3 days are concerned? What's your take? What are you thinking?
Moro, I think it's a reflection of the executive. When you have an executive that is intolerant of dissenting opinions, you would find a reflection in that in the security agencies and indeed even in members of government and indeed supporters of the government exhibiting that kind of conduct. This is exactly what I see. Even though we do not have a criminal libel law now in Ghana, but because of this new act that seeks to criminalize false publication of information, it appears that even matters that were not envisaged by the law are now being called into question because the interpretation and indeed enforcement of the law on false information literally encapsulates everything that turns out to be a lie. And even though that was not the original intent, clearly, the original intent was to clamp down on false information, particularly that has the potential of endangering our security as a nation. But as we speak, now it kind of encapsulates every single thing that turns out to be a lie. And if you're not lucky, as a journalist or as a civil society or a politically exposed person, you make a comment that turns out to be untrue, whether out of sensationalism or out of your desire to educate or inform the public. However good your intentions may be, you may end up falling foul of this law. And the way the security agencies are enforcing it, I think is not right, and it calls for a review and indeed discussions over this piece of legislation so that we can put it into perspective and target the people that were intended when the law was passed. The mischief is what we have to focus on, and not to bring in persons or matters that were not originally envisaged as victims of this whole circumstance. When a media man or a politically exposed person makes a comment in the media space, to the best of my understanding, and indeed to build a solid democracy, the first point of call will be the media house that you believe has fallen foul of the law. to seek a redress from there. Probably seek for a sort of rejoinder. If it doesn't work, the media commission is there. If it doesn't work, I think the courts are available for civil action. Okay. The moment you bring in criminal issues, criminalizing comments, we enter into dangerous territories, and I don't think that is good for our democratic dispensation.
Okay. All right. So let me thank you very much for joining us, Justice Abdullahi. There was another colleague lawyer who was listening actually raised a very interesting question about whether indeed it makes any difference. The fact that what the Oliver said was conditional, which is that if the E-Levy is passed, he will stage a coup, whether the conditional, because the conditional statement, and so perhaps it's not as grave a statement to make as Justice Abdullahi was suggesting in that submission he made in his presentation of the arrest of Oliver Baka Vomawo. But that's another it's a whole topic that we can look into as far as this development is concerned. Now, yesterday, my colleague in Parliament, Abdallah Mohammed, had a conversation. In fact, I had an interview with Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, who is the Member of Parliament for the Northern constituency and also a ranking member on Foreign Affairs, on this same matter, and picked his thoughts about whether he thought free speech was being criminalized. But before that, let me introduce my guest. Felix Kwakye Ofosu has joined us for an interview. Felix, let me say very good morning to you. It's good to see you. Happy New Year. This is the first time we're having a conversation in 2022. Oh, please switch your microphone on. Thank you very much.
Well, it's the first time I'm here on your program, even though we've spoken.
Yeah, it's a few times.
I recall the last time was when the NPP had the extraordinary conference in Kumasi. I think we spoke that morning, but I have not had the opportunity to visit your studio. Yeah.
It's good to have you.
Good to be here.
So Abdallah Mohammed spoke to the Honourable Member of Parliament for the Northern constituency, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, on this matter. Let's hear what he said.
Expressing concern over what he says is the persecution of journalists. Do you share in his opinion that journalists are being persecuted by the ruling government?
Absolutely. I am on all fours with the former President Mahama. He is right. And former President Mahama is not the only one saying this. Look at how we are faring on the World Press Freedom Index. We are on the decline. We have lost our #1 status as the freest country in Africa for media freedoms. Journalists are clearly under attack in our country. Look at what happened to Captain Smart. Look at what happened to Bobie Ansah. Look at what happened to the other Power FM journalist who is in jail now. I mean, and recall what happened to Manasseh Azuri. So there have been too many examples of a backdoor return of the criminal libel law. That is what is going on. And it is clear that the president wants to muzzle the press, this government. The irony is that it is led by President Akufo-Addo, who is styled as a human rights activist, a defender of freedoms. Somebody who once said that he would prefer a faulty press than a no press at all, because there cannot be any democracy worth its salt without a free and vibrant press. So what has happened? Why is it that even when it comes to the application of that obnoxious Section 207 and Section 208 of the Criminal and Other Offences Act, why is it that the application is so selective? Only last week, see what happened, where you had this week, actually, not last week, this week, where we were accused of baking cakes and going to present E-Levy cakes. And you had journalists circulating that, publishing that. Of course, I don't want those journalists arrested or treated in this manner. I don't want civil society organization activists like Mensa Thompson. All of those at CDD, Imani, IEA. I do not expect them to be treated this way. So the president himself, when we were in power, remember the $10 million accusation he made against President Mahama using that amount of money for libraries? It turned out to be false. He had published clear falsehood. Remember what the president said about the cost of the Kasua interchange? It turned out to be falsehood. But nobody went after him. So we cannot build a democracy when you have critical voices being targeted, being hounded. This is shameful. And you are going to see that our already decline, and that is really my worry. We are already not doing well on the World Press Freedom Index. We are declining. This is going to get worse. The international community is really outraged that Ghana, which was a shining example, a beacon of hope, we have so degenerated. And see how, as we speak, the killers of Ahmed Hussein Swale have not been found. There is no serious investigation. Nobody has been arrested. So this climate is terrible. And you see, let government be warned that nobody will be cowed. If government is doing this to intimidate, to harass, and to cow people into silence, into submission, government should be told clearly, that, in very clear language, that this will not work. It will not work. Nobody will be suppressed, nobody will be muzzled, nobody will be intimidated. Ghanaians, the opposition, civil society, the media will continue to point to the ills of this president. A president who doesn't listen, a president who treats the people with contempt, a president who shields wrongdoers. We need more.
Right, so that's the Member of Parliament for the Northern constituency, also ranking member on Foreign Affairs, Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa. In that interaction with my colleague Abdallah Mohammed, he's actually a parliamentary correspondent. Now, let's do this quickly before we start our conversation with Felix Kwakye Ofosu. Now, Felicity Nelson is a member of the Fix the Country movement. She's actually one of the spokespersons for the group. Let's talk to her to know what the group knows about the arrest of Oliver Baka Vomawo. Felicity, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us on Inside Pages.
Thank you for having me.
Right. Now, actually, to be fair to Felicity, you were the one who actually drew my attention yesterday to the arrest. What do you know so far about the arrest of Oliver?
So right now, as it stands, we basically know what the police have put out, right? So as it stands now, as at 8:58 this morning, we still haven't been able to speak to him. His right to legal counsel has been denied. He's still not. So the police have had him for over 12 hours, and he hasn't been able to get any legal representation. And what we do know, we don't actually, now they're saying in the statement, they said that Tema Police Command has picked him up, but we don't know we don't know where he's being held. So that's also been kept secret. And so as it stands right now, we're just as ignorant and as the public. We don't actually, so there's, as you can see, the statement is very vague. It just tells you that he's been arrested and he's going to be arraigned before court on Monday, but we have very little information as to where he is. We're not allowed to, we've not been allowed to speak to him at all, and he hasn't been allowed to get any legal representation.
Now, Felicity, Oliver actually posted something on social media, actually on his Facebook page.
Yeah.
That's prior to what has happened. And he himself said he felt or believed or knows that he will be arrested for the comments that he made. But when the arrest is effected, please leave him alone. Don't bother to hashtag it. Don't bother to look for him. He's prepared to carry the cross. So perhaps would you want to go back home and sleep?
No, of course not. Absolutely not. And it's not the thing you have to understand that it's not just about Oliver. If you make this about Oliver, then you're not looking at the bigger picture, right? It's about how over this government has continued to basically infringe upon the rights of even journalists to make free speech. In the last 3 weeks, how many journalists have they arrested? When you look at the fact that Caleb went to the National Security Office, he was tortured. So it's not just about Oliver. So if it's just about him, yes, he can say those things. But Fix the Country has never really been about individuals. It's about the system. A system that allows people, and because there's from the eyewitness account that we have from the airport, right? Even when they got at the airport, they refused to, when they took him, they didn't, at the time, in front of the person, he was with other people were around. They didn't tell him why they were arresting him, even though he asked them. And they took his phone forcibly away from him, which they don't have a right to. They don't have a right to do that. they've denied him his right to legal counsel, even though he's asked for it. It's been over 12 hours. So it's not just about, and these are things that happen to the everyday Ghanaian. It's something that happens all the time. So it's systemic. These are systemic problems. So if we say, oh, Oliver said, leave me alone, then we just leave him alone. But it's about the breaches. It's about the human right abuses. So if someone like Oliver, who at least he's a convener of Fix the Country, has a bit of a following, he's quite popular. If they can do this to him, can you imagine what they can do to Yamansa, who is just a trader in the corner? Do you understand? When she apparently falls short of the law. So it's not about our insistence on obviously wanting him to gain legal. These are constitutional rights. Where if you're being arrested and you're being charged with something, you have a right to legal counsel. This is a right enshrined in our constitution. So it doesn't matter whether you say, unless he says he's waived that right, he hasn't been given the opportunity to do that.
Okay.
So you have to ask yourself, what is it that the police have been doing with him for over 12 hours that they can't? If you're questioning him, the person's asked for legal representation, you're questioning him for 12 hours, then what can come of that question? And if he's saying, I'm not going to comment, or are you going to torture him in order to get the answers you need? Why do you not want a lawyer present? I'm questioning your intentions.
Now, Felicity, what do you make of what Oliver posted? The threat, the fact that if the E-Levy is passed after the cake sharing BS, he will stage a coup. You don't find anything wrong with that?
So personally, I'm not going to comment on that post because I am not Oliver. I don't know what his intentions were. I know he's my friend. I don't think that he intends to do a coup. This isn't something he has discussed with me previously. So, but as far as, I'm not going to go into whether I think it was right or was not right. I'm not gonna go into that.
Okay, just briefly. So, what do you guys intend to do now? I mean, are you going to continue the search till Monday when he's arraigned before court? You intend to speak to some family persons?
We're going to, of course, go to the regional command, because we want to know where he is. So as it stands right now, as you know, we've always been people who have complied with the law. So we're not going to do anything, scary or whatever, as they're thinking. That hasn't been our MO. So we're going to try. We want to access him. We want to make sure that he's okay. We want to ensure that he has legal counsel to ensure that his rights are not being abused. Because we've seen that this when it comes to state officials, especially when they're operating in secrecy, when people don't know where you are, we know that they can torture you, they can abuse you, they can act outside of the remits of the law. So we want to just ensure that he's okay. That's our main focus right now. Yeah.
Okay. Felicity, I want to thank you very much for accepting to talk to us on Inside Pages. Have a good day.
Moro, take care. Bye.
All right. That Felicity Nelson, she's one of the spokespersons for the Fix the Country movement. Let me now come to Felix Kwakye Ofosu. I want to get it right because, sometimes I mix up. Sometimes it's Felix Ofosu Kwakye and then sometimes you hear Felix, but it's Kwakye Ofosu.
Yes.
I believe so. Now, do you know Oliver personally?
No, I do not.
You don't know him personally?
I've met him only once, but even that was very, very brief. I was scheduled to be on a program on a sister TV station. So apparently he was on an earlier segment.
Okay.
So we just met at the entrance. As he was getting out, I was going, and we just said hello.
Right.
So that's about the only time that I've seen him.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've been following what's happening with him. He made a post. The police has arrested him at the Kotoka. He was actually picked up at the Kotoka International Airport. He arrived around 4:20. He was picked up around 5:20. And he sent a text to his family and said, some guys are here. They've picked him up from the airport. They're sending me to an unknown destination. Do you have any brief thoughts to share on what has happened to him?
Security agencies naturally have the right to look into cases that they believe could lead to a compromise of the country's security. So if an isolated incident occurs and one individual is questioned in relation to something he has said or some thoughts that he had shared, it will naturally not be too much of a problem. But we are not talking about an isolated incident in this matter. I believe the reason why there's been some hue and cry in the past week or two is that there appears to be a consistent pattern of attacks on critical voices who have dared speak out against the maladministration and very bad governance of President Akufo-Addo. That, for me, is the gravamen of the issue. Mm-hmm. It is not that one individual has been picked up or not. Because over the years, there's a litany of examples of that happening within our polity. Sometimes some overzealous security personnel overreach and do things that are completely at variance with law and order. Sometimes some individuals say very outrageous things. I mean, the most notable example is Kennedy Japan, who sat on TV and incited violence. In that instance, the security apparatus has no option than to apprehend such a person and see whether or not some crime has been committed. That is also clearly provided for by law. But we are not talking of that. We are talking about relatively innocuous commentary, which this president and his government have responded to in a very high-handed manner. And the objective is to silence these voices and create fear amongst those who may harbor the thought of criticizing the conduct of this government. That, for me, is the issue. Because really, when has it happened that in the space of 2 weeks, about 4 notable critics of government have been put on trial and in some instances imprisoned for something that they have said that is deemed to be unpleasant? It started with Captain Smart. Everybody knows that he is hypercritical of this government. There's nothing wrong with being hypercritical of this government. The truth is that this government has been appallingly incompetent. So even a child knows that they've been a complete waste of time. And therefore, if Ghanaians are upset with them and they bash them on a daily basis, it is to be expected. So Captain Smart has been no exception. On a daily basis, he raves and rants against this government. You may agree or disagree with his methods. You may agree or disagree with his choice of words. But he has a right to wail and pillory this government in any way, shape, or form that he deems fit. That in itself does not constitute a crime. But there has been a deliberate effort to look for something to pin on him in order to silence him. So we noticed that he was arrested, taken to a police station, taken to court immediately. He was granted bail, and yet he was still kept in custody till the following day, until he was located and freed. Then, a few days after that, Hoineba Bene of Power FM also was imprisoned after the Attorney General of President Akufo-Addo brought contempt charges against him in a high court, and he was imprisoned. Again, what he said was some commentary on what he believed to be the conduct of the judiciary, vis-a-vis whether they were fair or not, or whether or not any other influence.
This was a replication of something Kweku Skirt in America said.
Many people have said that. Right. You understand me? So he was imprisoned. Then, a few days after that, I saw Mensa Thompson. I was horrified to see that he was handcuffed, bundled into a taxi, and sent to court on the charge that he had said that the president's children or relatives over the Christmas period flew in the presidential aircraft to London or some other place to have a good time. Now, this is an innocuous comment. Granted that what he said turned out to be untrue. I'm not sure how this incites any hatred or violence or a breach of the peace, for which reason anybody should be standing trial. The most that can be done is the issuance of a counter statement clarifying whether or not indeed the aircraft had been used. Indeed, it is very easy to check whether the aircraft had been used. If you type in the tail number of the aircraft today, you will find where it has been over the period. So it is very easy to verify. So granted that what Mensa Thompson said was not true, I don't think that it warrants prosecution. The most that could have happened was the issuance of a statement to debunk, or if you like, dismiss the claim. That claim in itself cannot in any way, shape, or form constitute a breach of the peace.
Ghana Armed Forces actually
exactly. So once they clarify the matter, that should have ended.
Right.
We didn't require a situation where the man was manhandled in the manner he was handled, like a petty criminal, a petty thief, and taken to court and he's standing trial. Then, a few days after that, in Rambo Gestapo style, Bobby Ansa is also picked up after he finishes a radio program. Indeed, I have spoken to him, and he has told me that in fact he received an invitation from the Cantonment's police station, and he had negotiated a date, which is Monday, to report. Indeed, he had even offered to report earlier because he had some free time. They declined and said, oh, it's not such a serious matter. So, on the day that we've agreed, come. Then, before that day comes, a team of about 3, vehicles. I mean, a team of armed police officers.
4, actually.
Or security, 4
vehicles.
4 vehicles filled with armed security officials stormed his workplace and whisked him away. Was that even necessary? The brutal show of force, was it necessary? And what was the issue that he had said? that the first lady and the spouses of the president, we call the spouse of the president the first lady, and then the wife of the vice president had appropriated some state land. Again, Moro, if there's an allegation that the wife of the president and the wife of the vice president have appropriated state land, what breach of the peace does that occasion? Indeed, I can produce for you a tall list of government officials, past and present, who have bought state lands. It's a matter that we have spoken about at length. I recall that since 2000, it was a major campaign item for us.
True.
So really, it is nothing new. It didn't lead to any violence. It did not lead to any breach of the peace. It did not. Yes, people can be incensed, so they may go on a tirade against public officials. They may criticize public officials very harshly. But I don't see how that breaches the peace. Secondly, the first lady.
But Felix, question is,
Moro, let me land.
Was it true or false?
You see, whether it is true or false is completely immaterial.
False publication.
I'm saying that
it has consequences.
Moro, what is the consequence of saying that the first lady has acquired some land?
If it is not true?
I'm telling you that since 2008, I can prove for you a list that includes the likes of the late Jacobe Chibilamte and other officials under the Kufuor government who bought state land. Some of it are around this area where we speak. We published that list. We criticized them severely. Some of them were even taken to court in civil cases. What breach of the peace did it occasion? So if Bobie says that the first lady or the wife of the vice president have gone to acquire state lands, in what way does that breach the peace? For which reason he is arrested in this fashion? Now, not just arrested, actually taken to court with a view to imprisoning him. Secondly, the first lady may be married to the president, but she is a private citizen. She has absolutely no role, not defined by the constitution or any known legislation. She is a private citizen like you and I. The only thing is that she is married to the president, so she's a high-profile personality. That is the most that you can attribute to her. Mm-hmm. The wife of the vice president is a private citizen. She doesn't hold any formal office. She may get some courtesies because of who she is married to, and security may be provided her because she may become a target because of who she is married to. Beyond that, she is like you and I. So an allegation against these two individuals is like an allegation against you or against me. Moro, if somebody publishes that I have bought state lands, indeed, I have had several allegations made against me.
Yes.
Some claim that I have bought houses, including some of the MPP people who today are all over the place claiming that they are outraged that this has been said. That I had bought 2 houses. They said I had bought a Range Rover. I had done this, I had done that. If you make that allegation against me, must I bundle those people into prison for saying that? In one instance, I filed a civil suit against one of the people who made the allegation. If I'm vindicated, the most that will happen is that I will seek damages. But the person who made the allegation will never go to prison. But here, they are seeking to put Bobie in prison for saying something against the first lady and the second lady. Why? Samira Bawumia. Did she not stand on the platform in 2016 and launch what I consider to be a senseless attack on President Mahama, basically accusing him of corruption? Should she have been arrested and imprisoned because of the false accusations she made against President Mahama? So, President Akufo-Addo himself, will he survive any test of the truth or falsehood of claims that are made? I can tell you off the top of my head 3 major untruths that he peddled. Look, in 2015 in Amsterdam, he claimed that the government that I was part of had bought diaries to the tune of $10 million. It was a complete lie. On another occasion, he said that we were scheming with the Electoral Commission to rig elections, and that if Ghana goes south or there's violence, the international community should not blame anybody, but themselves were sitting down and allowing this to happen. On another occasion, at the Aliyu Muhammad Memorial Lectures in 2015, he claimed that the Kaswa interchange project had been inflated in terms of the cost. He also said that the Range Hospital project had been inflated by as much as $140 million. These were serious allegations bordering on corruption against his predecessor. I can tell you for a fact that President Akufo-Addo can never prove this because they were lies. So technically, what he and his government are saying is that, you see, when he goes out of office, the first 3 years after he leaves office, he is liable for prosecution for any offense because he doesn't have immunity. It's after 3 years that the immunity kicks in. It means that for the first 3 years after he leaves office, technically, somebody can lodge a complaint against him for these things. And at 80 years and above, he will be put before a court with the potential for him to go to prison for saying those things. The MPP people who are all over the place, who say they are busting an artery and are outraged, would they want a situation where an 80-year-old President Akufo-Addo is put on trial with a view to sending him to prison because he said President Mahama bought diaries for $10 million, which turned out to be untrue? So these are actions of a government that is very jittery. Their hopeless incompetence, their corruption and nepotism, and their inability to govern properly has brought them under intense pressure and condemnation and vilification from the people of Ghana. And it is righteous. The people of Ghana are right to call out any government they believe is not performing. So that is what they have done. So because of that, they feel hemmed in. And therefore, they want to use these tactics to ward off further criticism so that, in their view, they will get some peace of mind and some space to maneuver. But no public official should have the right to shield himself with laws threatening imprisonment against people who criticize them, whether they are in the executive, in the judiciary, or the legislature. And the way that we are allowing things to go in this country, we are going to descend into chaos. You see, a more brutal dictator can emerge. And as for him, even if you cough his name, he can say that he's offended, so go to prison. That is where we are going to get to if we don't put an end to this absurdity that is going on. And you see, this is happening at a time when real crimes have been committed by people aligned to this government. I spoke about Kennedy Japan. Why is he special? Does he have 4 legs? When he sat on national television and threatened to burn down the houses of President Mahama and the likes of Colonel Gbagbo-Lati, where was the Ghana Police Service? Are they telling me that they did not hear those threats? He specified a crime that he was going to commit. Yet, he works a free man. If President Akufo-Addo indeed believes in the application of the rule of law, why has he allowed Kennedy Japan to work free?
But Felix, don't you find it, I'm looking for want of a better word, but what I'm trying to suggest is, look, this is the president who has been at the forefront of fighting for free speech. Indeed, the president is noted for the role he played in the repeal of the criminal libel law. In fact, the president has said everything he has lived for is the deepening of free speech, or the culture of free speech. Why do you think the president would want to erode all those gains? With all these allegations you're making against him and saying the president knows
the truth is that
about what is happening to these
he was not at the
journalists.
forefront of anything. All of that was an artifice.
How so?
A veneer to conceal his true character. It was intended to dress him up in robes that he did not really own, to mislead the people of Ghana and to give him an opportunity to become president.
Really?
So they say that the presidency reveals your true character. Now that he has power, we are seeing what he really believes in. Because it is incongruous. It does not make sense one bit that a man who purported to love the press so much that he helped to repeal a law which said that if you're a newspaper or a media organization, you publish a story that was deemed to be false and libelous of an individual, you could go to prison. He hated that law, so had it repealed. Yet he loves a law that says that if you say something that is false about his wife and the wife of the vice president, you can go to prison, like they are doing to Bobi Ansah. If the president really was at the forefront of all the things that are ascribed to him, we won't be seeing what we are. He was at the forefront of nothing. It was just a self-serving activity to cloak him in the semblance of a human rights campaigner and somebody who loves free. He does not love free speech one bit. Indeed, there's a quote attributed to him where he says that he prefers a reckless press to a praise-singing one.
Right.
So let us assume without admitting that all the people who have been lined up for prosecution, and you see, they have not just been arrested, they have been lined up for prosecution. And the consequence of this is that they could go to prison for saying something that the administration deems unpleasant.
But the president is not the one who's going to put them in prison.
Why? But
they have been arrested before court. The judges will determine whether or not this deserves a custodial sentence or not.
Who arraigned them before court?
Well,
in the case of Ohinema Beni, it was the president's attorney general, an appointee of the president. The attorney general does that on behalf of the president.
Yes. But he's also the attorney general, minister of justice for the people of Ghana.
How come that he is only attorney general for NDC people? He's not attorney general for Kennedy Japan. Moro, he's not attorney general for Kennedy Japan.
Discretion to determine what he thinks
so if that
is prosecutable or not.
If that discretion is used unreasonable, in the case of people deemed to be aligned to the NDC, and that horrendous crimes committed by MPP folks are allowed to pass, you know that he's not exercising any discretion.
What is he
doing?
They are
engaged in a hatchet job against NDC functionaries and supporters. That is what they are engaged in. And
to what end?
Listen, so that it cows people like myself and others who are up in arms against this government.
I see.
Into silence. That is what that is intended to achieve. You tell me, between these individuals and Kennedy Japan, who has greater responsibility in society? He's a member of parliament. He was able to sit on TV, showed pictures of Ahmed Swale, basically put a bounty on his head, and said that anybody who attacks him will be rewarded and defended by him. Within a few months of that broadcast, the gentleman involved is murdered. Not a whimper is heard from the Attorney General or the police, with a view to sanctioning this errant MP. The same person sits on TV, threatens to burn the house of a former president and a former security coordinator. Nothing happens to him, and we are told that the AG is exercising discretion. He is not exercising discretion. They are engaged in a witch hunt, a deliberate effort to stifle free speech because they cannot contain the pressure they have come under because of their own bad governance. That is what it is about. And let us not mince words at all. Look, let's look at the issue of contempt, for instance. The same Kennedy Japan. He sat on TV and abused a judge, used language that I cannot repeat here. This Attorney General purported to have put him before a court for contempt. Even the judge who was sitting on the case was changed. And the excuse is that he had said that Kennedy Japan should come and show why he should not commit him to contempt. Meanwhile, everybody else who has gone to court for contempt has the same charge. Indeed, there's a judge who actually refers to somebody he has cited for contempt as a scoundrel. A scoundrel. That was the judge's view of the person he had cited for contempt. That case, I believe, is still pending. There was nothing wrong with it. But because a judge says that Kennedy Japan should come to court and prove why he should not be committed to prison or should not be punished for saying these things, the judge was changed. I hear that in the end, he walked away with a slap on the wrist. I think he was cautioned to be of good behavior. So how come that's for Ben here? He cannot be cautioned to be of good behavior. Between Kennedy Japan and a journalist who has greater responsibility in society, who should know much better than the other. So how is it that one set of punishment is reserved for NDC people and MP people can walk with the most egregious crime? As I speak to you, the same president you say loves freedom. He's a human rights advocate. He was president when terrorists, and I will not call them vigilantes, they are terrorists, that his government had armed with state resources, descended on people at Ayo West Ogun, brutalized and maimed some of them. There is a report by the Michot Committee which had fingered specific individuals who ought to be prosecuted for their role in that mayhem, that state-sponsored act of terrorism. Nothing happened. Then we go into elections. 8 Ghanaians were gunned down by security personnel loyal to this president. It's been 1.5 years since those dastardly killings. The president has done absolutely nothing. And what we are concerned about is that Bobi Ansah has said that the First Lady and the wife of the Vice President have gone to buy land. Between these two cases, which one requires urgent attention? Which group of people should be prosecuted? The people who gun down people in broad daylight. People go to observe the collation of election results and they are gunned down, including a 14-year-old boy or girl who is young enough to be the president's grandchild. She lost it. What threat did the 14-year-old girl pose to the electoral process, warranting her killing, a dastardly killing? The people who committed those crimes are working 1.5 years after the incident. And we are told that the biggest thing we should worry about in this country is that a journalist says that the First Lady and the wife of the Vice President have gone to buy land. So there's a disproportionate misuse of law against individuals. And I am saying without reservation that the reason why this is happening is that these people are critical. They are leading the effort to expose the rot, the terrible governance that President Akufo-Addo is offering.
Okay.
And that is why they have come under this sort of action.
All
and
right.
nothing more. So let nobody confuse what is happening.
Okay.
I've heard people say, for instance, that the police need to sanitize the airwaves. Moro, it is not the place of the police to sanitize the airwaves. They don't have that rule. The police is simply to ensure law and order. So if you commit a crime, they deal with you. That is their rule. It is not the police to legislate for you and me what we can say or cannot say on air.
Mm-hmm.
So that is not their rule.
Mm-hmm.
What they are doing now is the misuse of a law which is clearly outdated, anachronistic, completely antithetical to democratic values, and absurd in the extreme to target individuals who are critical of this government. That is exactly what is happening. And we must call it out for what it is.
Well, in case you just joined us, I'm hosting Felix Kwakye Ofosu, who is the former Deputy Communications Minister and also an aide to the former President, Mahama. As you can tell, it's taking some pot shots at the government of the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and believes that the President perhaps knows about what is happening to journalists, and wonders why the President, who in all his life has touted himself to be a human rights advocate, would superintend over what is happening to journalists. But I asked him whether he felt or thought that what the journalists had done was right. He said, "Look, even if they were not right, that's not how to approach it. You don't apply the laws in a high-handed way and also discriminately, because there are others who have also, in his view, said worse things. But what has happened to them?" Now, if you have any questions you want to ask me, if you have any contributions that you want to make to the show, please do send us a WhatsApp message to 0500,000 25621, 0500,000 25621. Felix Kwakye Ofosu is my guest on Inside Pages. So that the WhatsApp line is 0500,000. So 0500 5,000 actually 0500 25621. Now, Felix, when this matter came up, we saw some video that was circulating on social media, and in that video, you were justifying the arrest of Fadi Dabuzi, who says he's an author. As we speak, I'm told he's one of the officials, he's one of the persons who work at the the Jubilee House. Now, Fadi Dabuzi in 2016 was arrested. He had authored a book called 59 Years to Nowhere. And in that book said certain things which were deemed to be very despicable to the former president, John Dramani Mahama. And the national security guys picked him up when he came back from the UK at the Kotoka International Airport. Now, in this video, you were seen to be justifying his arrest. First of all, you said the Bureau of National Investigations is a state agency. It has not been run, it is not being influenced, it is not being manipulated by any government official. And you also believe there was nothing wrong with the way Fadi Dabuzi had been picked up, and that he deserved what had happened to him because of what he had done with the publication of the book and its content. Now, the question which has been asked, or which is being posed, when the persons who are circulating this video, whether your position has changed, and if your position has changed, why has it changed? Is it a case of you also being inconsistent when it comes to your principles?
First of all, these are.
In fact, I can read to you what you said. In fact, it's been captured by Ghana Web.
All right.
I am aware that they have made several attempts to question him over his publication, but as far as the mode of arrest, it is not unlawful. Now, you also go on to say people have even been picked up on planes and arrested in their hideouts. So, as for where you are arrested, for me, it is not material, and I don't see why his mode of arrest is being described as unlawful. And you go ahead to say, let there not be falsehood that he was arrested because he made offensive comments, and some even claim that he was arrested because he published a book. But this book was published months ago, if I'm not mistaken. So it is not on the basis upon which he was arrested. He was arrested for these specific allegations relating to the suitability of the president to continue in the office that he's holding. And it is a security matter. There is no person or security in this world that would sit aloof. According to you, Fadi's arrest has nothing to do with political affiliation with the MPP, and pleaded with Ghanaians to refrain from bringing in politics. But you are questioning if Fadi would have been able to write any such publications about the Lebanese prime minister and go scot-free without being interrogated by the security agencies. And the video is out there.
But of
Some
course,
feel that your posture has changed.
First of all, these are essentially enablers of dictatorship. Those who cite this as justification.
That's how you describe them?
But they are enablers of dictatorship. You see,
how so?
They are not able to see that what their presidents and governments are doing is right. They are saying that, it was done before. You understand me? They should be able to say that, what our president is doing is right. That you can target journalists in this way and seek to imprison them. take them to court and have them imprisoned because they've said something you don't like.
Maybe
And
they
that
also,
it
maybe
is
they also
great.
say, maybe they also say you
No,
don't have the moral,
let me come to
the
the
moral
point.
justification to
Fadi
complain today.
Dabusi is easily one of the vilest propagandists the MPP has. And indeed, you say that he works at the office of the president. So it shows that President Akufo-Addo does not have a difficulty with people saying things that are unpleasant about others, right? So the first question you ask is that if he had a difficulty with what Bobi Ansah and Co are saying, why is he harboring somebody like that? And you should read some of the things that Fadi Dabusi says. The specific publication I was telling you, it was so vile, so filthy, that I cannot repeat what he said here. But at that time, there were lies that he had been tortured, he had been mistreated, which I clarified. And it's important that people listen to the entire tape. They've cut 1 minute 34 seconds in order to create a false impression. But if you listen to the full tape, I gave the reason why they had done that. When you asked me about Oliver, I told you that the security apparatus of any country, if they deem that you've done anything that undermines the security of the state, they have a right to look into it. And they've done it to Oliver. I have not sat here to condemn the BNI, have I? Have I condemned the BNI?
No, you haven't.
No.
Fair to you, yes.
So it is the same principle. What I have taken issue with is the criminalization of speech. You notice that Fadi Dabusi, indeed, let me tell you, when they arrested him and questioned him over the allegation it is so vulgar, I cannot repeat it here. That is the only reason why I'm not mentioning the specific matter.
But you also criticized how Bobi Ansah was picked up. You described it as
But
Gestapo.
Fadi was not picked up by a team of men sitting in 4 vehicles with AK-47s. He was picked up at the airport when he arrived. So he was asked to accompany some men to BNI.
Okay.
Bobi Ansah had booked a date with the police to report. And so there was clarity as to the mode of reportage or the reporting. There was an agreement which this government violated in Gestapo style. That was not the case in Fadi Dabusi. Fadi Dabusi was not in Ghana when he was being looked for. So when he came down, they picked him up and sent him to the BNI for questioning. Same has been done to Oliver, and I have not condemned that because I think that it is proper to look into the matter to see whether there's any basis.
So your position, the principles haven't changed?
They haven't changed. When Fadi was turned to the BNI, and they questioned him about the publication, he admitted that they were lies and that he published it because he was angry that people were saying some things about President Akufo-Addo and that he had no basis. So it was established that what he said was a lie. But did anybody put Fadi before court? Did anybody imprison Fadi like they attempted to do to these people? So the security agency can look into an allegation. Look, the allegation involving the first lady and the second lady, in any serious jurisdiction, the investigation would be about whether or not these two people have used their proximity to power to acquire land illegally. And then based on that, action will be taken against them. Here, we are looking into punishing the person who made the allegation. The two are not the same.
Right.
Somebody says the first lady and the wife of the vice president have gone to buy land illegally. As to whether it is true or not, as I sit here, I do not know. But I'm saying that in a jurisdiction where things work properly, the target will not be the journalists. They will not put the journalist before court to imprison him. They will look into whether or not these two ladies, based on their proximity to power, have done anything irregular to acquire these lands, if it is true. If they find that it is not true, the matter dies. But the journalists will not be prosecuted and jailed. What these two people can do is to file a civil suit seeking damages for defamation of character, as I have done in a case that somebody made against me. But the idea that you can be arrested is not in doubt. It is not in doubt.
Right.
When the security agencies believe that you have done something that compromises the security of the country,
but you see,
you can do that. But you see, in the
Felix,
case, go ahead.
In one breath, you seek to criticize the president or to blame the president, Akufo-Addo, for what is happening to these journalists.
Yes.
But in another breath, in fact, in the case of Fadi Dabusi, you say disassociate the president from what is happening to Fadi Dabusi because the BNI is a state institution.
You see, there's a
I have told you. So the question
Moro,
your critics are asking you is what has changed?
Moro, what has changed is that this president has shown more than enough will to go after people who disagree with him. He started this in opposition. As leader of the MPP, we all know what he did to Paul Afoko, Kwabena Japan, and Sami Krab. The terrorists who have become an albatross around our neck now were used to hound these people because they disagreed. They publicly criticized President Akufo-Addo. Is it not a matter of fact? Did President Akufo-Addo not bring mercenaries from South Africa to train these terrorists? Is it not a matter of fact?
Yeah, but does that constitute...
Did Polafoko not say, listen, did Polafoko not say that as national chairman, he was done with horror as he brought in people from Serbia to train MPP activists in what they call assaulting the pillars of the state? And is it not a matter of public record that these invisible forces, Delta forces, Water Crocodiles, Burger Bulldogs, and those who are loyal to President Akufo-Addo attacked people who criticized President Akufo-Addo internally? So the man was able to pluck feathers from a tortoise. And you think that when he gets a chicken, that chicken will go scot-free. Was it not his Attorney General who cited Ben here for contempt and he is languishing in prison now? And the Attorney General works directly for the President. If the President is not interested in that matter, he will stop the Attorney General.
I see.
How is it that that same Attorney General is unable to prosecute anybody affiliated with the MPP? And the President finds nothing wrong with it.
Okay.
So there's no dispute that if Bobby Ansah had said what he said about you, he would not be facing prosecution. Assuming that he had said that you had acquired state land illegally, he won't be facing prosecution. But because he said something about the President's wife, the vested interest is there. It is all present over this matter. Again, the consequences that follow the arrest of a journalist is all too clear. President Akufo-Addo's interest is to see the imprisonment of his critics. That is different from looking into an allegation that has been made, as is the case with Vomawo and Fadi Dabusi, as I raised them. So those people seeking to defend President Akufo-Addo's atrocities with what I said are enablers of tyranny. You see, let them go ahead and defend this kind of action. Only 2 days ago, they were all over the place claiming that the minority had presented a cake to the majority leader, right?
Yes.
So that has been established to be a lie because according to the minority leader himself, he received a cake from somebody he knows.
A businessman,
not
yes.
to be a businessman, not a politician
Yes.
or a member of parliament. So all those who published that, who are members of the MPP, have published a falsehood, right? Are they not in breach of Section 207 and 208 of the Public Order Act? So why is it that they are not standing trial for saying something that is false?
Okay.
And President Akufo-Addo himself, like I asked, will he accept that when he leaves office, now he has immunity because he's president, a complaint should be lodged against him for saying that President Mahama bought diaries for $10 million, which turned out to be false? Would he accept, based on the principle he's espousing, that the police picks him up at 80 years old and above and puts him before court with a view to imprisoning him for saying something that is not true? So let nobody attempt to compare apples with oranges and defend clear wrongdoing. What is happening? And Moro, you should be worried as a journalist. Technically, if you get a news bulletin wrong, what is happening? The police can come for you and prosecute you. That's what they are saying. But it should not be the case. Go ahead.
Let me read a few messages.
Sure.
And then we'll come back to E-Levy and the economy.
All right.
Because you've been very vocal on what you believe are the reasons why the government desperately needs the E-Levy and not what the government is telling us. Now, this one from Aaron Aniu. Aaron Aniu sends us a message from Baglo in the Jasikan district of the Oti region. He says, "Good morning, Mr. Moro. The behavior of the current government towards journalists is appalling. MPP government don't like criticisms, want and like criticisms. Please tell Felix 2025 no more further for us." Ben from New Botiano says, "Good morning, please, Mr. Host. We're all listening to what your guest is saying, so please don't repeat what he's saying." Well, sorry, I won't repeat what Felix tells me. I hear you, sir. This one from Halidu Muhammad from Garrett and Pani says, "Good morning, Awudu. Ghanaians are not more safe under this government because we Ghanaians will stand firm. No freedom of speech anymore, but time will tell. Say hi to my boss." This one says, "God bless President Mahama. Good morning, Honorable Felix Kwakye. Your submission is super. This government is a failure and wants to shut whoever wants to criticize their super incompetence of government." And this one here says that the amount and frequency of oppressive measures by this government and its agencies is becoming alarming. The president is supposed to be a human rights lawyer. There's a very big irony here. Hassan Bako from Tamale South. And this one here says that I disagree with Felix that why would he want to pin everything that's happening to the president? The president has bigger things to think about. He's not interested in arresting journalists. Please, he should give us a break. That's coming from Elizabeth. And this one here says that, good morning, MPP and Anado. Allah is watching them, but when we get to the bridge, we'll cross it. Oh, Allah, save Ghanaians. That's Sherry from Tamale. And good morning, I'm Mali from Blekuma. I don't agree with the NDC man by calling the MPP dictators. The behavior of some journalists in this country is very bad. Phillips in Odan says, good morning, Moro. We were in this country when the president and his assigns claimed that the president, Mahama, had bought a mansion in Dubai. What happened to them? Is it because its sand runs through the veins of the president, Mahama? And finally, good morning, Mr. Host. My darling Speaker Felix has disgraced the whole machinery of the MPP-led government this morning, especially the Attorney General. For lack of better expression, Dami is not a good Attorney General. How Godfrey Dami favorites the cases to prosecute is alarming and weakening the standards of the aegis office. The Techiman South incident remains a scar on many of us because it was avoidable. And then this one here is from Papa Bisu. Now, Papa Bisu sent a message. It says, hi, Brother Moro. I salute you. JM's regime, Ghanaians, including Nana Bawumia, and Sami, Gabi, and he gives a tall list of persons. So they insulted JM plus publications of false news and threats, but JM never arrested any of these people because JM was very tolerant and a lovely personality. And the man who claims to be human rights lawyer, Anado, see how we're being impressed by him and the security agencies. Chiaka Papa Bisu sends that message. And the final one here from Eben. Eben sends me a message. In fact, he's been harassing me for me to read the messages. I need to quickly look for Eben's message. And good. Now, Eben says, good morning. I'm Eben from Kwabenya. The president claims to be protecting the public purse. If I may ask, how can he protect the public purse by traveling in luxurious jets? Is not wasting the taxpayers' money and still wants us to pay E-Levy. This E-Levy, no diye in Tuyampo, this is wickedness. Regards to Ni Ashite Ama, Mahadi Jibril and Nana Ampim. So that's it. All right, so let me come back to E-Levy and matters arising and the economy. Felix has been very vocal on this E-Levy matter. We'll take a break, but when we come back from the break, the Deputy Majority Leader Felix, Alex Afenyo-Markin, sorry about that. Alex Afenyo-Markin has been addressing the press on why the government badly needs the E-Levy. So when we come back from the break, we'll play that tape and then Felix will come in. Stay tuned in.
Government, through the Ministry of Finance, has been engaging Ghanaians on this important levy and explaining to Ghanaians why the introduction of this levy. Two things. Our roads and the unemployment situation we find ourselves. Many of our youths graduate and they want to get jobs, but the public sector cannot take everybody. So this E-Levy, as contained in the budget statement, is aimed at also looking at creating opportunities for our young men and women who want to take advantage of the private sector. The main concern has been source of capital. Government is looking forward to use part of this levy to support our young entrepreneurs, right at the district level, all the way up. And it would be a game changer. And that is why I believe that with the explanation being offered, Ghanaians would very much appreciate why the introduction of this levy. Then, of course, again, our roads. Every one of us in the Chamber of Parliament, we've been talking about roads, that the deplorable nature of our roads. And today, Honorable Samsonai talking about Bodi roads. Obviously, we must have sustainable, dedicated, reliable source of funding. I chair the road fund. As we speak today, what is in the fund that next week we're going to disburse is just around 75 million cedis. What can 75 million do? How many contractors are you going to pay? So the reality is that there are key aspects of the economy that we must look for reliable source of funding so that we can grow the economy. The general waste in our public sector financial management. That one is a call on all of us.
Okay, so that's the Deputy Majority Leader, Alex Afenyo-Markin, making a case yet again on why Ghanaians must burden share and pay the E-Levy. Felix disagrees. Felix and his political party, the NDC, thinks that that's not the way to go. But Felix, you want to wrap up on the... Right. Please, your microphone is off. Yes.
The Akufo-Addo administration is interested in hounding critics of his government. Is that we cannot allow our country to descend to a level where if somebody says something that turns out to be untrue, he's imprisoned. There's no civilized society where that should be allowed. Otherwise, technically, all 30 million of us can land in prison. Because in this, our line of work, invariably, you can say a thing or two. You can even be misled to say things that turn out to be untrue. Right. But you cannot go to prison because of that. But people should have a civil recourse. They seek redress against you. But it cannot lead to imprisonment. Look, I am fundamentally against imprisoning anybody for anything he says. Unless what he has said has a very clear, indisputable effect on public law and order, like in Japan did. When you ask one tribe to attack another tribe, it is obvious that one is not defensible. But a criticism, even if it is harsh, against a leader or some high-profile person
should not attract custodial sentence.
Should not attract custodial sentence. That is not to say that the police cannot look into what you have said with a view to seeing whether there's any truth so that they can take further action against any wrongdoer. So the two must be distinguished clearly. And the FPP people going around giving approbation to this and clapping and falling over themselves, doing acrobatics and being happy because their president is being high-handed, can become victims of this in the near future. Because we know that they peddle a lot of untruth, some of which they did in this week. And that if that was to be used against them, hundreds of them will go to prison. So I am against the use of law to impose custodial sentences on people who say things against leaders, even if what they have said is not true. The other point is that, you see, no public official should be able to shield themselves from scrutiny with law. That's why I am also opposed, implacably opposed, to the way that contempt is used. I think that it's about time that we have a contempt law or act, which clearly restricts contempt to actions that directly impede justice delivery. So, for instance, you go to court, you clearly misbehave, you are disruptive, you are lawless, that one you should be held liable. You disrupt the process of law. A bailiff is coming to serve you, you assault him or you prevent him in any way that undermines law and order. Or the personal security of a judge is undermined because of your actions. But as for commentary on the conduct of a judge, it should not attract custodial sentence. I am passionate about it because, you see, the laws are so broad and discretionary that it can be misapplied. Again, there's evidence of selectivity in this application, as I've indicated with the Kenya case. So because of that, you don't put it in the hands of a judge to decide what constitutes contempt or not. The law should be clear and express. And I think that Parliament should take it up because the people who pay public service, and judges are also public officials, they are paid with the taxpayers' money. Taxpayers must have the right to scrutinize the conduct of all public officials, including judges, the president, parliamentarians, and anybody who occupies public office. This section 207, 208 must be repealed. It is inimical. It is archaic, completely unhelpful. It is being abused. It is being applied selectively. And you see, politicians and people in power will always find ways to do these things. The best remedy, the best safeguard we can have is for such laws to be expunged. If it was not right for President Akufo-Addo's friends in the media at the time to be imprisoned for criminal libel, it cannot be right for his critics today to be imprisoned because of alleged publication of falsehood. And I think that we must have a conversation to get rid of this. That, for me, is the crux of the matter.
Section 76 of the Electronic Communications Act is also a problem. And
yes,
a lot of
look,
people have complained
any
about
law
it.
that criminalizes speech that can land you in prison is a bad law that must be repealed. The right to free speech was not put in the Constitution as a decorative piece. It means that you should be able to say something that is unpleasant, but nobody should have the power to imprison you for it. Yes.
Let's talk about back to E-Levy and the economy. We don't have all the time. We have 10 minutes to wrap up. You have stated your position as the biggest opposition party that you're implacably opposed to this E-Levy. And you've given us tons of reasons to back it. Now, one of the things that you've said as an alternative to what the government can do is to cut down on expenditure. And you have often referred to, as you described, the ostentatious lifestyle of the president. And also the budgetary allocation to government machinery. I've heard Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa say, cut down on that too. Well, the government says, we have heard you, we will cut down on expenditure by 20%. On condition we're not able to raise, or we're not able to meet our projected revenue. John Kuma has said that several times. And John Kuma has also said that now issues about plugging the loopholes in our public financial management is something that they're also looking at. But that is not something that can happen. It's not an event. It's going to take a process. And digitalization will deal with that substantially. And also the issue about, how do you call it? There are other ways of generating revenue. You don't necessarily have to go the E-Levy way. They're saying they're looking at all of that. So if after all these things that the government has said, are you still saying that you will not support the passage of the E-Levy when it's brought before Parliament?
You see, Moro, the truth is that
Yes.
President Akufo-Addo, especially his head of the economic management team, who in opposition was touted as some economic messiah, possessing all the skills in this world about economic management, who has turned out to be somebody whose expertise actually lies in hopeless incompetence. He clearly has been outed as a flat-footed talkative, somebody who talks big in opposition, but is completely flat-footed in government. He doesn't even have the courage. He is demonstrating open cowardice in the face of the collapse of the Ghanaian economy. He doesn't even have the courage to face the people of Ghana and say that, yes, I said this and this and this and that in opposition. But in government, some exigencies and realities have led us to this point. So yes, I acknowledge that we are in a deep crisis, but we are doing A, B, C, D to address the problem so that better times will come. He is unable to concede this. He is unable to man up. He is displaying complete cowardice. He has run away from economic management. Now,
is it a matter of fact?
I'm coming.
Is it a matter of fact? Just briefly. Is it a matter of fact that the vice president has collapsed the economy? Because the vice president has said it time and again that what has happened to the economy? In fact, not he himself personally, but his spokespersons. Dr. Gideon Buakwa says, look,
why is the vice president not able to speak?
Well, his spokespersons.
What spokesperson?
Commentary.
It was not his spokesperson
as the vice
who went
president.
to say that they will move from taxation to production. It was not Gideon Buakwa who said that.
He is the vice president.
It was not my friend. It was not my friend Gideon Buakwa who said that borrowing and taxation were the lazy man's approach to economic management.
Back to what I wanted to say, which is the economy was growing consistently at 7%. Until there was what we call a force majeure. But how do you blame the vice president for that?
He is to be blamed. But you see, it is not just that he is to be blamed. My worry is that he has demonstrated cowardice. He doesn't have the courage to even face the people of Ghana and admit that there are problems and that he is solving it. Unlike how loquacious he was in opposition, running around, mocking the then head of the economic management.
But you have said that his posture must change. I mean, he's no more the opposition.
No, but why?
He's the vice
in
president.
Times of crisis,
you don't expect him to do what he was doing in
times of crisis, nobody says he should come and put on jocular performances. In times of crisis, leaders take responsibility. When there was power crisis, President Mama, he did not run away. He did not send me, his deputy information minister, to go and rationalize what was happening. He took the bull by the horn. He went to parliament himself and made a firm declaration that he takes responsibility, even though you cannot necessarily say that he caused it. But he takes responsibility and that he will fix it. And he went to fix it.
He's president. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is the vice president.
And head.
So
he is the head of the economic management team.
Yes.
He is the one who chairs the team that manages our economy. He has responsibility to level up with the people of Ghana. He was not the presidential candidate of the MPP. He was not the number one man on the ticket. Indeed, he was not even on the poster. He was not on the ballot paper. It was President Akufo-Addo said that was there, right? But it was not President Akufo-Addo who went around saying that he was an economic messiah. It was Bawumia who went around saying that. So if he is chairing the economic management team and we are in this terrible economic situation, it is his duty to man up. He must stop running away. Now what they have done is that they have carved out a very unnecessary, completely superfluous rule as some IT champion. Only yesterday we saw the embarrassment that he faced with the ICAO disclaimer on his claims that,
what's happened to the ICAO disclaimer?
Last week he claimed that ICAO had approved the use of the Ghana card as an e-passport in 44,000 airports. Right. ICAO says they don't even have the power to give such an approval. So it's become a major controversy on social media. What they have done is that they have carved out a new rule so that he will surreptitiously run away from responsibility for the mess he has supervised in the economy.
But you can't separate digitalization from the economy.
First of all,
it's supposed to enable, it's supposed to spur on
but
the economy.
digitalization predates Bawumia.
Yes.
President Mahama, I would say without hesitation, contributed the most to enabling us to achieve what we have achieved now in the area of ICT application. That's essentially what it is. But Bahumia's adoption of that fanciful terminology is only a ruse to allow him to run away from the mess that he has created in the economy. When he was campaigning, what he told everybody was that they had a fantastic economic management team with him as the head, and that they were going to manage things properly. Today, our economy has collapsed such that people who lend us money, people on the international bond market, don't want to touch us to the long pole. Last week, around this time, we were reeling under catastrophic downgrades by Fitch and Moody's. Our bonds are junk. People don't want to put their money in our economy anymore. Even local investors who buy our bonds have begun grumbling and are saying that our bonds are risky. Only 2 days ago, Standard Chartered, one of the biggest banks in the world, further highlighted the problem when they said that we are a highly indebted country with high debt risk. Right. So these matters are not disputable. The fact is that our economy has been collapsed by Bawumia's mismanagement, and he does not want to take responsibility for it. So the first point is for them to admit that we are in a mess. Look, if you pick the budget that the finance minister read, which Bawumia would have changed its preparation, all the money that they hope to get this year, which includes E-Levy, is 100 billion Ghana cedis.
Yes, 105.
That money is swallowed by just 3 items: salaries, statutory payments, and debt servicing. These 3 items constitute about 113 billion Ghana cedis, which is more than what they will collect. After they pay that, there's nothing. They need to borrow money. Those who will lend us that money say they won't give it to us. So we are in a mess, and they are engaged in bluster and fanciful political posturing. They don't want to admit that they are in a mess. People have said that, oh, go to the IMF for policy credibility, because now they don't have policy credibility. Nobody believes their projections and estimates in this budget. That's why we are not getting any money from the international market. So people have suggested, go to the IMF so they will give you comfort, policy credibility, so that investors will now look upon you favorably and begin to do business with you, so that we ease some of the rigidities and pressures we have faced. They say they won't go. Yet, they are not giving us any alternative plan. And he has run away, and now he's championing IT overnight. When that is not the promise he made to us.
Unfortunately, we have to end. But the finance minister has responded to it, so let's believe in ourselves. Well, let's generate the money domestically. We don't have to go to the IMF.
Why was it that when we were generating money domestically, Bawumia was saying that we will move away from that and go and do production? What happened to their production?
Thank you very much. Felix Kwakye has been my guest on Inside Pages. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. My name is Moro. Sorry, I couldn't read some of your messages. I beg you. Please forgive me. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.